Here in this place, new light is streaming. Now is the darkness vanished away. See in this space our fears and our dreaming, brought here to you in the light of this day. Gather us in the lost and forsaken. Gather us in the vine and the land. Call to us now and we shall awaken. We shall arise at the sound of our name. Not in your dark of buildings confining, not in some heaven light years away. Here in this place, the light is shining. Now is the story, now is the day. Gather us in and hold us forever. Gather us in and make us your own. Gather us in, all peoples together. Fire of love in our flesh and our bone.
Let us gather ourselves more fully in by taking together a breath. We breathe with intention together to arrive in this moment, to make ourselves available to the generosity of this moment. We begin that process by physically gathering ourselves in, of course, and then our mind and spirit follow so that we can be fully present for at least a moment, not dwelling on what has already happened or obsessing about what might be, for just this moment being available to what might arise just now. The breath is a powerful tool. Each Sunday I kindle some sort of flame, a visual reminder of that which is within us that is eternal and yet sometimes feels dimmed by life's living. And so we have a visual reminder that that light within us can always be kindled again. Sometimes it's kindled by what we receive from others. Sometimes it is kindled by what we share. Both great ways to start the week. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad to gather with you together apart again. We are this morning continuing this kind of consideration around what the world means and the meaning we make of the world and who we are and who we can be in the midst of it all. And I see periodically this image of words on social media that is a joke really, but not. That says, I always see movies and read stories where people travel back in time are very concerned. They're very concerned that they might step on a bug and change all of the trajectory of history in front of them, but I don't see anyone being that obsessive about what they're doing today that might impact the future ahead of them now. And so that is, first of all, kind of funny. And second of all, kind of curious to consider what it would mean to be careful today in the moment, knowing that we're setting a trajectory for the future. It could also become really problematic if you just spend your whole day avoiding stepping on an insect. But what if you were supposed to step on the insect and then, oh my God, all of fate has changed because you were too careful? Some modicum of attention to the moment and knowing that what we do now is leading somewhere. The pebble we drop in this moment ripples out like rings on the water. And so being attentive and attentive so that the future we build together might be a future better suited for all people. This morning, as we gather together apart, I invite you to use the technology to hand to greet those who are here with you this morning in chat, on Zoom, in the comments on Facebook, letting folks know who it is they're building church with today. And if you would care to share in there something or someone who brought you some extra joy this week, I would gladly share in that with you. I'll share my own out loud since the folks on Facebook can't see what I type in chat and vice versa. I randomly went swimming yesterday at the public pool. I haven't been to the public pool in probably 25 years, and I kind of forgot that it was an option that I literally walk by every day with the dog, but had been an empty pool all summer and suddenly had water, and they're open 2 days a week for like 10 hours. So I finished writing yesterday. I mean, not that I was writing for this morning yesterday, that would be silly. But if I were, I finished and went for a swim, and it was great. And it was quite joyful to see people play and then realize I also had made time for play, which, if you know me well, is not a forte of mine. So that was a great, great joy. As I adjust what I'm seeing right now, I see, Jenny, that you've shared about Zion, and I have to say, I see enough pictures of Zion on social media that those two bring me joy. I have to admit, I love how alive that kid is. Frank and I were out downtown a couple weeks ago, like on a Saturday afternoon, and saw Zion and a friend walking through the BottleWorks area, and he had his ukulele, and he was just like ukuleleing in the middle, and I was like, Jenny White could do no other than to raise this like 7-foot ginger child walking around with the world's smallest string instrument, just busking downtown. It was fantastic. So well played, Jenny White. Oh, well played, Zion. It was a fun moment to witness. Oh, I have just a couple of things to remind you of. One, I'm just going to put a big old fat link right in the chat, and I'm going to put it on Facebook as well. I never want you to fail to wonder why I choose to push so many buttons all at the same time. This is a link to last week's email, which came out midweek instead of end of the week, because it was a special email from Scott Lakin. And it was to just let you know what the plan is moving forward this month. It has all the dates for work dates. It has the plan for First Sunday Back as things stand on September 5th. And just so you can know when we're doing what we're doing. We're following the Marion County Health Department guidelines, and we'll continue to do so. So if you're unvaccinated, mask up. If you're vaccinated, you have a choice. You will find me most often with my face covered, both because of Delta and because my mustache is usually uneven, and I really like just putting that away. So I hope you will make time to be at some of those gatherings. They're midweek, during the day, some Saturdays. There's one early morning that's just, we're going to sit in a big circle for meditation and prayer to bless the building, and then we'll move through the building, touching the physical walls that don't have wet paint. That'll be key. I want Ed Choate to continue to like me, and if I have us touch the wet paint, he likely is going to struggle with that. Remembering that you don't actually have to do work to be part of the work detail. Part of this is our easing our way into sharing physical space as we feel comfortable. The other important thing to know about all of that is we will continue to stream online. Ed and Frank were at church on Friday, and they set up the new equipment that has been sitting in my living room for the last year and a half. Easy to work, great picture. It looks like things should be up and running with no problem. Our plan currently is to put that on Facebook because that's where we have been live. So that Facebook Live video will still be there. We won't have Zoom because I won't be able to do back and forth, and it isn't feasible at that point or particularly useful. You can watch live on Facebook, interacting in the comments. You will not the plan there is not to just make that a thing that's happening and never mentioned. Like, Facebook arrival is just as wonderful as in-person arrival. It's not an afterthought. So I hope you will be there if you're not quite ready to be in the building or if you live afar. It's exciting. It's nerve-wracking, a little anxiety-making. I'm looking forward to seeing people in person, but not too much. You may be in the same place, right? Like finding that balance of what it means to be together in person again. Let's take a breath. To allow ourselves to settle in this morning, to continue this work of building virtual church. First with music from Mark Proctor, and then words from Jenny White.
Come back to me with all your heart. Don't let fear keep us apart. Trees to bend, those great and tall, so must we to others call. Long have I waited for your coming home to me, and living deeply underlined. The wilderness will lead you to your heart, where I will speak integrity and justice, tenderness you shall know. Long have I waited for your coming home to me, and living deeply underlined. You shall sleep secure with peace, faithfulness will be your joy. Long have I waited for your coming home to me, and living deeply underlined.
At the Church Within, we meditate to connect with Source, to clear the clutter of our minds, and remember that we are one with the mind of God, capable of being love in every circumstance, and wise enough to bring that truth to our hearts. I invite you now to relax into your chairs, divert your attention, or if it's comfortable for you, close your eyes. Release the burden of your day, this past week. Sink back into the comfortable, loving arms of the God of your understanding. Breathe deeply in and out. Move past the thoughts that arise, seeking comfort in the silence and the wisdom offered. As we breathe in and out together, and as the invitation invites, it calls us to move past the thoughts that arise. I know it is a constant practice for me to simply acknowledge and thank those thoughts that come forward so that I can let them go and focus on the breath. The breath that is the connection that I have to my higher power, to the God of my understanding. And I know as we breathe together, it is also my connection to each and every one of you. While I am grateful for the opportunity to be able to meet again in person soon, the thoughts that keep arising are thoughts of anxiety and fear, and the story that I make up is that what if it's just not safe yet? But I know that we all have the opportunity to take care of ourselves, to follow what is best for us and what is best for our community of faith, so that we can be together and that we can be safe and that we can continue to breathe together, whether it's from the safety of our home, from the safety of being masked and socially distant while we're together. We can always return to the breath. As we breathe in and out, we know that we can stay connected and release the thoughts, release the stories that that our brains try to weave together as we remain connected to ourselves, to our higher power, and to each other. Let us now simply focus on that breath. Creator God, thank you for bringing us together this morning, for allowing us to share this space and time. Thank you for helping us remember that we don't have to listen to every story that comes across our minds, that we can stay connected to you in our hearts when we remember to return to the breath. Please keep us all safe, secure, and willing to adapt to whatever the circumstances that might be getting in our way. For we know that with your inspiration, guidance, and support, we are never alone. Blessed be, and amen. Friends, the Church Within was founded on the power of prayer. If you have a prayer request today or in the coming weeks or at any time, you can submit that prayer request to our prayer chain on our church website. The link is in the chat in Zoom and in the comments on Facebook. And know that our prayer warriors are ready, willing, and able to surround you with love. Blessed be, friends.
I'm going to tell you 3 stories this morning. 2 of them are what we would know as true stories. One of them is from a sitcom, and so a story that isn't true and yet has some truth in it that I think we can navigate together. The first story comes from a television show that Frank and I watch called Making It. It falls into one of those true stories. It's one of those 2. It's a competition show. It's hosted by Nick Offerman and Amy Poehler, which may give you an idea of just how serious the competition gets. It's a crafting competition. It is super fun to watch, and it's pretty inspiring to see people come up with ideas in the face of the challenges offered and then actually make those ideas happen, usually pretty close to their original vision. On a recent episode, the 2 challenges in that particular day were around upcycling. So that process of taking something old and somehow updating it or changing it to some new or different purpose. One of the contestants turned an old wall phone into a lamp that had a charging station for her cell phone and also a holder for a martini glass. It was a station specifically to be used for drunk dialing exes, which is very specific. I had some questions that I would have liked to ask her in follow-up. When describing her work to the judges, she said that the phone happened to be a 1957 model, which I immediately wondered how she knew that. It must have been printed on the phone somewhere. And that 1957 was her favorite year, is her favorite year, and that was why she chose the phone in part. And they asked her why, of course. 1957 was her favorite year, and she said that she met her husband while he was driving a 1957 Chevy that shot flames out of the tailpipes. I was glad she made fun of how much that was not, in fact, an attraction to her. But in that same 1957 Chevy, they brought home all 4 of their children after they were born. They went on many family vacations together. A lot of family memories were made in that 1957 Chevy. And so because of all that, 1957 became her favorite year. The second story is the not true but has some truth in it kind of story, and it comes from a sitcom called Brooklyn Nine-Nine, another show that Frank and I watch. In the first episode of the new season, a character named Amy is noticeably upset, so a coworker approaches her asking what's wrong, and she responds, "I'm stressed. It's Captain Holt. You won't believe what he said to me. He said, 'Hello, Santiago. How's your lunch?' Pretty bad, right?" And her coworker says that he politely asked you about your lunch, and she responds, It was small talk. Captain Holt always says that true friends sit in silence. Small talk is for strangers and con men, so I'm a stranger now. That is my big fear about having a child, losing my spark with my boss. Amy has just returned from maternity leave on the show. We laugh about this, of course, and that was the point of the exchange. And later, Amy confronts said Captain Holt, and if you've watched the show, you're not surprised to hear that. It is very on brand for her. And she mentions the small talk to him. And he says, "Oh, you noticed that." Then she expresses her sadness that she's now a stranger, that their once very close relationship as boss and employee and as mentor and mentee has been shifted because of her time away. And he said, "No, I did it because I'm a con man. I was trying to con you into believing everything is normal with me when it is not. Kevin and I have separated." The third story comes not from television, but from out here in the world. A friend and I were recently walking from where we were doing some work together to his house, just a few doors down from the shop, so that we could grab something to drink. His yard has gardens in the front, like mine, and his gardens in the front are overgrown, also like mine. And his house is notoriously messy, like ours. And he kind of just gestures loosely at the space around him and says, half jokingly, "How can I become a better person? Someone whose house isn't like this." Let's take a breath together. We are, as human beings, meaning makers. We long for a life of meaning, and we want everything around us to mean something. My friend Vivi used to be fond of saying, "In the absence of truth, I will gladly make up a story." I have become fond of repeating that line myself, likely too often. I'm a very good story maker-upper. She and I both apply that kind of aphorism to those moments when we realize that we've been making up a story and we've decided to investigate what's really going on so that we can compare it to what we think might be going on. These three stories that I have shared about people and their interaction with the meaning they've made can give us some idea, some insight to this kind of meaning making. And the first, because that car was such a big part of the life of this crafter and the lives of her family, 1957 has taken on particular meaning for her. She made meaning of the year when she could have just as easily made meaning of Chevys in general, the color of the car, the color of the interior, any number of things around the vehicle itself. She made meaning of the year. She made meaning of the year, and now that number adds meaning to other aspects of her life, including an old phone that became a lamp that held her martini and charged her phone when I hope she's not actually dialing exes from after having said martini. In the second story, Amy recognized the meaning of small talk to Captain Holt because he had told her. It's for strangers and con men. But she invested in the wrong understanding of what she knew it to mean for him. She chose to believe the issue was about her, not him, and she only hit the mark later because she was willing to ask him about it and was open to hearing what he said in response. In the third, my friend identified that he'd somehow become convinced that his overgrown yard and messy house identified him as a bad person. A person who should, in quotes, be better somehow. My response to him, incidentally, was to let him know that he was wrong in how he was seeing this, and that I know plenty of people with pristine yards, gardens, and homes who are not what anyone would immediately identify as good people. It is good and well that we are able to make meaning of the happenings in our life, of our lives themselves, to make meaning of the moments we live. This uniquely human skill allows us to process hardship and loss. It allows us to learn about the world insofar as we are willing to challenge the meaning we have made, becoming willing to understand what it is, what it truly is. Our ability to make good use of this human skill is predicated in large part on our own self-awareness. In her book, Insight, The Surprising Truth About How Others See Us, How We See Ourselves, and Why the Answers Matter More Than We Think, Dr. Tasha Eurich writes, self-awareness is, at its core, the ability to see ourselves clearly, to understand who we are, how others see us, the ability to see ourselves clearly, and to understand how we fit into the world. Later in that same chapter, she writes, for most people, it is easier to choose self-delusion, the antithesis of self-awareness, over the cold, hard truth. She writes, this is particularly true when our delusion masquerades, as it often does, as insight. The delusion masquerading as insight is our meaning-making capacity in action. The crafter from the show, if offered some questions about it, would probably say that she did, in fact, provide all the meaning to 1957. She grew a small seed of an idea, a detail about a car that was present at moments into a huge tree that had become a symbol in her life. It was meaning that added life to her living, so why not? To be clear, Holt's understanding of small talk is also totally made up, but knowing him as a character, there is no need to challenge him on it. Amy, in that scene, on the other hand, fluent in his understanding of the world, recognized a problem, even if she misidentified what the problem was. She knows small talk might have other uses, though I personally struggle to know what those would be. My friend with the messy environment, on the other hand, had become convinced that the meaning others had made around what mess and clutter means was real and true, and so he adopted that as his own, deciding he should live in someone else's reality, their meaning taking over what it could be for him. He is, in fact, a very good person who has a messy yard and house. The constant problem we face is that the meaning we are making are the stories in our head, and those stories, as I remind us often, are narrated by our own voice, and we're so used to that voice that we have come to trust it, even though much of what it has to say is not particularly true or true in the moment. We have to become willing to challenge the meaning we've made. If anything we want to be different in the world or for us is to come to be. We forget we are the ones writing the stories, and we believe them completely, as if they are reality itself. My favorite part of the text that is so useful for so many, A Course in Miracles, is the first section of lessons in the workbook. They move the reader through a series of reminders about this very thing, divorcing us from the meaning we project onto physical items, situations, people, thoughts, and retracting them. The fact of the matter is, the meaning we are projecting onto the world at large is so very much about us and so very little about objective reality. We make so much of the world about us, and none of it really is. Think about the things you are projecting meaning onto. Cleanliness of a car, newness or fanciness of clothing, good grammar, eye contact, a smile. We think we know what all those things mean because we have agreed to some domestication, to norms, to what we would call culture. We pretend together so well that we forget we are pretending. This last year and a half has made many of us a bit feral. We want something more authentic. We struggle with returning to a game of pretend. It doesn't mean that we have to change anything on the surface, really. It means we simply can't believe that all the meaning we have been making all this time is as real as we once thought it was. And that can be terrifying. That can be terrifying in no small part because we suddenly have to wonder if we are who we thought we were for so very long. That's why it's about self-awareness. That's why self-awareness must include how others see us and how we fit in the world. How we express our belonging in the world, I would like better than fit. We make an impact regardless of our awareness, and we become more intentional in what that impact is when we are able to see ourselves clearly. In her book, Dr. Urich writes, "The truth is that while most of us think we know ourselves pretty well, this confidence is unfounded. Researchers have established that our self-assessments are often flawed in substantive and systematic ways. Studies show that we tend to be terrible judges of our own performance and abilities, from our leadership skills, to our car driving prowess, to our performance at school and at work. The scariest part," she writes, "the least competent people are usually the most confident in their abilities." Let's take a breath. Call to mind something you think of as meaningful. Something that has both meaning and gravitas for you. If you can, make it something that seems so self-evident that you can't even consider it a belief. It's just so obvious. I want you to call that kind of meaningful meme for your life to mind, because that's the kind of meaning we are most confident in, and therefore is the very meaning that is begging us to reconsider it. That's what the research tells us. That which we are most confident in is likely to be off, is likely to maybe not deserve our confidence. And so we can look at it again. I wonder if you're wondering why we're considering this on a Sunday morning. The meaning we make about the world includes meaning we make about people in the world. We decide what we think of strangers within just a few seconds of our eyes landing upon them, and we believe what we think about them. We decide who people are in our lives based on one conversation 10 years ago, and we refuse to revisit who they might have grown into now. We have decided who we are based on mistakes or triumphs decades in the past, and we are missing who we are and who we could be right now. When we believe more in the meaning we've made than the potential of this very moment, we're not living. When we keep our attention on the meaning we have made, we miss the very beauty of the divine all around us and within us. A Course in Miracles, in that first section of the workbook, asks us to consider, amongst other things, a table. Table is innocuous. We all have tables or have been around tables. And it invites us to understand that this table has no meaning other than what we give it. A table is a safe place to start, as I mentioned, because we have very little emotional investment in what we believe about tables, other than maybe feet don't go on them and butts don't go on them. It's a simple matter to let go of beliefs around tables, much simpler than it would be to let go of beliefs around, say, some teacher who told us we weren't good at something, so we never tried it again when we were 12. Right? That hurtful thing that we've carried around for however many decades has convinced us of something. We're invested in it. we have less investment in tables. And so the Course is inviting us to a shift in perception, and a Course translates or understands, defines a miracle as a shift in perception. The Course in Miracles reads, when you say, above all else, I want to see this table differently, you are making a commitment to withdraw your preconceived ideas about the table and open your mind to what it is for. You are not defining it in past terms. You are asking what it is rather than telling it what it is. You are not binding its meaning to your tiny experience of tables. You are not limiting its purpose to your little personal thoughts. It is lovely to simultaneously consider how easy that is, approaching a table while letting your mind bring to the fore people with whom it would be very difficult to go through that process. Arriving without preconceived ideas. Arriving to see who they are instead of telling them who they are. Asking instead of telling. How much of our suffering is from our belief in meaning we have made? Not just around things, but around people, around ourselves, around experiences, around wealth, around access to wealth. How much of that suffering, conflict with others, experiences of wanting what isn't while ignoring the wonder of what is, how much of all of that is predicated on what is temporary being understood as permanent? How much of that requires that the meaning you have made is somehow paramount to anyone else's understanding? How much of that requires that the meaning you have made to be paramount to anyone else's understanding? That's an awkward sentence. That is an awkward sentence. How much of our suffering, I mean to say, depends on our meaning being right? Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? Do you want to be right in what you think the meaning of whatever is, or do you want to be happy in the moment? How often do you miss the divine within the person sitting across from you because of a million tiny things that you have decided mean something? We are moving into yet another phase of this pandemic life. It's not what we expected again. And we are faced again with an opportunity to liberate ourselves from the false narratives that serve no one and nothing. Becoming aware, we become empowered to choose the meaning we make. We have the opportunity to make this right here, this right now, our home. This just now, just here, can be home. We have the opportunity to arrive here, where we have always belonged. That arrival depends on some of that meaning at least being questioned and some of it falling away. As we have been practicing, hello to here, hello to now, welcome home.
If I had wings, no one would ask me, should I fly? The Bird sings known as wine. I can see in myself wings as I feel them. You see something else, keep your thoughts to yourself. I'll fly through them. Yesterday's eyes, see the colors fading away. See the sun turn to gray. You can share in a dream you don't believe in. You say that you see, pretend to be me, you won't be them. How can you ask now that we going my way? Might as well ask a child and play. Well, there's no need to discuss or understand me. I won't ask of myself to become something else. I'll just be me. If I had wings, no one would ask me, should I fly? Well, since no one asks why, and I can see in myself wings as I feel them. If you see something else, keep your thoughts to yourself. I'll find freedom.
In just a few moments, we will join together for the offering prayer and the closing song and the closing prayer. And as always, I encourage you, say it out loud. And if you don't know the song, sing real loud, especially if you're outside. I think it'll be super fun. I think there is something that happens in the space around us when we communicate with our voice or when we sign with our hands, something happens. And so it's worth saying and signing these prayers right out loud. And then after that, we will end this Facebook live stream. And if you're there and want to join us for the Zoom breakout, that will be the thing that happens in Zoom. The link to Zoom is right there in Facebook Live. Gunny has started calling the breakout rooms breakthrough rooms, so maybe that'll invite you in. It is a beautiful day outside, so I do understand if you want to get your feet in the grass. But thank you, as always, for being here. Let us join together in prayer and in song. Creator God, all that I am and all that I have comes from your limitless supply. I am an open and willing conduit through which your good flows. I share all that I have as you direct. Love, friendship, prosperity, peace, abundance, and joy are gifts that I share and receive. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, God. Amen.
All people are holy, many paths, one time. All people are holy, only the Lord is real. No matter who you are, no matter where you've been, let's gather together, let the Spirit in. All people are holy, many times one God. All bodies are holy, only Lord is real. Only Lord is real.
May the peace of God go before us into this glorious week. And may the peace remain wherever we have walked. Peace above us and below us. Peace to the right and to the left, peace within, and without peace in the face of everyone we meet. Peace in the words to everyone we greet. Amen. Folks in Facebook land, whether you have gathered on Sunday morning or sometime after, blessings on you. Thank you for your presence, for connecting in this way. May your week be a wonderful one.